It's officially a wrap on all the craziness of the 2023 NFL Draft weekend for the Detroit Lions. I gave them my first round grades already, but with so much changing and with so much happening, I got to update those first round grades and the rest of the picks that they have for the draft. Let's talk about them now, right here on the DSN News Desk. Let's go.
Never fall back. We will stay right where we at.
What's good, Detroit Sports Nation? I am Eric Vincent, your host here at the DSN News Desk. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time and support. Fresh off all the craziness that went down from this weekend's NFL Draft, I had a blast covering it all, and I hope you guys did as well. I know a lot of y'all had some problems with some of my first round draft grades. I understand. But after all the craziness that happened, after all the trades that went down, after all the picks that happened, it's only right that I'm fair and I update some of those picks. Matter of fact, I'm going to update all my grades for the picks. We're going to talk about them all right here. Let's get right into it. Now, this still seems like the most controversial pick made by the Detroit Lions during their draft weekend, picking up running back Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama at number 12 after having the number 6 draft selection, after trading down 6 spots, moving back with the Arizona Cardinals, and also picking up an extra second-round pick in the process and using that number 12 selection on the Alabama product. Now, originally, I did give this pick an F. Out the gate, I was not feeling it. I really didn't see the value in it right away. But after some things have settled down and after some developments have happened, I think at this point, a C plus is a fair grade. I think that's fair for this move at this point. I still think it's a high verdict out, and I still think it's a lot of things that need to happen in order for this move to be right, and in order for me to be settled down with it. Because let's be clear, before the draft started, the high conversation was the Lions need to emphasize defense often and early throughout this draft. And if you look at how the results came out, Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions made more offensive draft selections than defensive draft selections. And this one being the original pick to kick off the draft shocked me to the utmost. And I talked about it all through Beyond the Box. I talked about it here on the news desk. I said I wanted to see them put some value into the defensive line. They passed on Jalen Carter, which kind of bothers me a little bit. But moving on and taking Gibbs instead to address the offense, where again, you traded DeAndre Swift over to the Philadelphia Eagles, and now you have the 1-2 punch between Gibbs and Montgomery in your backfield, which honestly could be the focal point of this offense. If they want to see the value of the signing that they gave Montgomery for a 3-year deal and moving back for a first-round running back, they have to carry the bulk of this offense, in my opinion. I really want to see them form a dynamic tandem behind this offensive line. I think they can make a lot of noise in the NFC. But to me, again, the fact that they didn't really push defense here as the forefront for their reasoning, it makes sense because what Brad Holmes discussed. He said it was a lot of teams that were interested in going up to go get Gibbs, so they wanted to be the first to make that happen before anybody else could swipe him. I understand that. I understand that logic, and I'm cool with that logic. And again, moving Swift makes it a little bit more comforting, but I still wanted to see a little bit more emphasis on defense. I understand the process of getting a guy like Gibbs, a pass-catching threat out the backfield who plays like Alvin Kamara, can give you that home run hitting threat that you haven't really had, especially while Jameson Williams is out of the lineup for the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. It's a little bit more pressure on that rookie running back, but I trust the creativity of Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell to be able to make it happen. I'll give it a C plus for right now, but it's going to take some time for me to see how it unfolds. Now, this was another surprising draft pick by the Detroit Lions, not because of the fit or not because of the player. I really like Jack Campbell a lot, and I really wanted to see the Lions make a move for him. I was just shocked at where they ended up getting him at that number 18 pick. However, I took this pick from a C plus all the way up to an A. I love this move. I truly do. I'm very happy about it, and I've settled down about the anger that I had from it. Brad Holmes detailed that there were the Atlanta Falcons who were interested in trading up from their second-round pick up to the first to go get Jack Campbell. Now, a lot of guys that the Lions were interested in seem to have their eyes on other teams, or other teams had their eyes on these players before the Lions had a chance to go get them. So the Lions putting the stamp on the players that they wanted was a huge emphasis in this draft. And I love that they did this with Jack Campbell as well. I think he's a very rangy player, really has a lot of upside as a sideline to sideline player. He does great in run support, has a lot of speed and athleticism to rush and attack passers, and really can get after coverage as well in the flats and in the middle of the field where tight ends roam as well. I love that versatility in the game of Jack Campbell, especially considering that they don't have a high amount of that in their linebacking room as it sits now. With Alex Anzalone, who they just re-signed to a 3-year deal, Malcolm Rodriguez, and I'm not sure if Derek Barnes is even still on the roster at this point or not. But the point is, linebacker was easily the weakest point of this defense. They didn't have a lot of depth, and they didn't have a lot of playmaking at the position. Bring in a Jack Campbell where the Lions can now not only play the 2 linebacker system that they have, they can still bring in 3 for a set where they bring in support against the run, where they're trying to attack running backs and clog up the lane to put pressure on the offensive line of their opposition. I'm okay with that. And I like the upside that he brings. A lot of the comps that I've heard for this guy are extremely exciting. Having his floor be a Leighton Vander Esch type player, but his ceiling being as high as a Luke Kuechly shows a tremendous amount of value that I'm all the way in for in terms of this pick. A for Jack Campbell. I'm all for it. Now, this pick and position is something I've been intrigued by in the Dan Campbell era since he got here. They haven't put a lot of emphasis in on tight end after trading TJ Hockenson, but now with this pick, they finally get their tight end of the future, bringing in Sam LaPorta from Iowa at the number 34 selection in the second round. I'm all the way for this pick, and this is an obvious A. An obvious A. Dan Campbell being a former tight end and then putting no emphasis in the position, that would just sat weird with me. And I think this guy fits right in the mold of what this offense is looking for. Very physical, big 6'5", I think 260, 250, very big target that you can use in the red zone. And then even outside of that, with the way he plays at Iowa, this dude does everything that TJ Hockenson didn't do. So don't compare him to him because of the Iowa comparison. This dude can catch passes in traffic. This guy can break tackles and run through contact. He's not the greatest run blocker, but he is a very physical and high effort type of player that you can be excited for and plug into an offense that needs a guy like him. If you look at a lot of the pass catching targets on the Lions offense, they're shorter guys. Jameson Williams is not a very big target. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not a very big guy. And the rest of their receivers as well. Like Marvin Jones is not a super big body playmaking type receiver. So it wasn't a whole lot of size that the Lions had at their disposal. I like what they did with the Titans after they traded Hockenson last season. But if you're looking to contend in the NFC and take over the NFC North division, you need to shore up as many of the positions on your roster as possible. Bringing in a guy like LaPorta, who has the athleticism that you want at the position, the physicality that you have at the position, and I think could be a high utility guy that they use in some creative packages to put points on the board and to be a high efficient red zone offensive team. I think he fits perfect with what this team is looking for. An obvious A for Sam LaPorta. One thing that we know about the Detroit Lions and how they like to build their defense is that they love versatility with their players, especially in the secondary that they continue to improve. They just showed that by bringing in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and now adding in defensive back ace Brian Branch to their secondary. This is an unbelievably great pickup by the Lions. An obvious A. An obvious A, and it might be my favorite pickup of the Lions. This is an awesome move by them. We saw them last season deal with a lot of injuries in their secondary, being very scarce and thin, especially when their secondary wasn't playing as great as you would want them to towards the back half of the season. So now adding in a lot more experience and depth brings in a totally different element for this secondary. And adding in a sure tackler like Branch, a guy with unbelievable range, a great sure tackler in the pass or the run game, This guy is fearless and adds a awesome element and dynamic to this secondary. I think he and CJ Gardner-Johnson are going to spend a lot of time kind of repping between each other as the nickelback for the defense. However, if we do see injuries come up, I would not be surprised to see either of those two players get some time and safety as well. I love the element and the dynamic that they bring to this team. Branch is a automatic A for this defense. Now, to me, I think the Detroit Lions saw the majority of their success on their Friday picks of the NFL draft in the second and third round, especially with the steal that they landed at number 68 with quarterback Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. I love this pick. I love everything about it. An obvious A, another obvious A for Brad Holmes. This was a great pick for a multitude of reasons. I think the Lions are telling a very specific story with this draft selection. We know what their plans look like with the offense for the next couple of years. They have Jared Goff under contract for the next two under a very bargain-friendly contract. After that, we haven't seen anything that details that they're interested in a long-term extension with Goff, which could cost them north of $45 million. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, we don't know. But what we do know is bringing in a guy like Hooker, whose skill set is nothing close to like what Goff does, means that they could be looking for something different after his contract is up. Normally, when quarterbacks are on a team, you see backups behind them that are similar because they want to keep the same kind of play style, even if their starter goes down. Bringing in somebody like Hooker, who has a huge arm, does a really good job at throwing intermediate routes and throwing guys open, and also has an uncoachable aspect with his legs where he can extend plays and run for huge chunks of offense and yards to put the defense on their heels, is a tremendous advantage to have, especially on an offense like this, where you have a top 5 offensive line, you have growing young weapons in front of you, and you also have a running game where you could put him in a shotgun with David Montgomery next to him and Jahmyr Gibbs on the other side, and they can get very creative with the genius of Ben Johnson. I'm loving what that could bring, especially considering while in these next couple of years, while Jared Goff is the starter, Hooker also has the ability to get healthy and soak up the NFL game with no pressure. He's not like Anthony Richardson. He's not like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, where they're going to be playing right away. He doesn't have to do that right away for the Lions. That's why I was so okay with the Lions gambling on a quarterback early. Because you have Goff, you're not in a position where you would have to play one of those young guys early. So bringing in somebody like Hooker, who needs to get his leg together, which I believe he will, and when he's ready to play, I believe brings a huge dynamic to this offense that even makes them even more dangerous than what we saw last season. I love this pickup so much. It's an obvious A for me. The Lions' third round selection at number 96, I believe brings some pretty good value that honestly I kind of wanted to see them go after early, but I do like that they did it here. Bringing in D tackle Broderick Martin from Western Kentucky at the number 96 position overall in the third round. I'm okay with this pick. I'm going to go ahead and give this a solid B for Brad Holmes. I think he earned that with this pick. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I've scouted out Western Kentucky super hard all season and know super much about Broderick Martin. I'm not going to lie and say that I do because I don't. I'm just going to speak on what I know and talk about the value that I think it would bring to this team. A big fella like him at 6'3", 330. He's kind of an old school type defensive tackle. The Shawn Rodgers, the big baby type defensive tackle. Old school Lion fans know what I'm talking about. He's a big body that you plug in, and I think makes life a little bit easier for the guys on the D line around him. I like a guy like this. He has long arms. I think he fills in right with what they're looking for on this line. And if you look at how the elite defenses in the NFL are shaped, I believe they do it by prioritizing their defensive line first. You see that with the Eagles. You see it with the San Francisco 49ers. You see it with the Cowboys. Like, they do a really good job at prioritizing their D-line talent so it can help their back seven be even more talented with them. And I think the Eagles did a good job of that with this draft, bringing in Jalen Carter, who I wish the Lions would have taken at 6, going after Nolan Smith as well with their second first round pick, and beefing up that D line to stay in that Super Bowl contention is how you stay one of the stronger teams in the NFC. I like this pickup for the Lions. I wish they would have added a little bit more strength to the D line, and passing up on Jalen Carter is the reason I have this at a B instead of an A. I want to see a little bit more value to it, where Carter was at one point looked at as the best prospect in this draft. But hey, you didn't sleep on the position. I like adding that beef to the D line. This is a B for me. The Detroit Lions did not have a fourth round draft selection in this NFL draft, meaning the next came in the fifth round at pick 152, where they went after offensive lineman Colby Sorsdale from William and Mary. And I got to be honest, this draft pick didn't move me a whole lot. This is a C. All picks don't end up becoming something substantial. So I think, honestly, this could become that pick that does exactly that. Sometimes players kind of get drafted by a team and maybe they get traded somewhere else, or they get cut, put on the practice squad, and maybe they just have an opportunity with a different team or a franchise. I feel like this is the more likely draft pick that could become that. He's an offensive lineman with some good upside. He's very big, very athletic, was not highly touted by a whole lot of scouts. And honestly, unless he's showing out in OTAs or in practice, and maybe they have a situation where Taylor Decker is looking for a contract extension, and they maybe don't want to pay him because of his age or whatever the other reasons may be, if they use a player like him where they say, hey, we've groomed him up to be our next guy up. So if you don't want to return, we have this guy waiting, and we're just fine with that. I'm not certain if that's what this prospect is going to become, but to me, it feels like that's the best case scenario at the fifth round. I don't believe, again, all picks do not pan out to be superstars, and that's okay. That's not what it takes for Brad Holmes to have a successful draft. But for this one, again, it doesn't really move me a whole lot, so I'm going to just go ahead and leave it at a C. The Detroit Lions' final pick in the seventh round at 219, I believe, has the biggest potential of being their best sleeper option. Wide receiver Antoine Green from North Carolina has a very big opportunity in front of him on this offense. Because Jameson Williams will be out of the lineup for the first 6 weeks with the team, because he violated the NFL's gambling policy, opens a huge door of opportunity for Antoine Green to cement himself as an important part of this offense, or maybe creating a different opportunity for a different team that's looking at him. But either way, with J-Mo on the sideline for 6 weeks, where Jared Goff is going to be getting comfortable with other targets like Sam LaPorta, continuing his bond with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Marvin Jones, Antoine Green is going to be somebody that has an opportunity to shine. I really believe they're going to give him every opportunity to do so because of the opportunity that Jameson Williams has put in front. We all thought that this was going to be the breakout year for J-Mo to step out and look like that number one target for this offense. I don't think we're going to see that now, because 6 weeks is too much time to just miss and then pick up like nothing else happened, especially if this team is in the heat of another playoff run. We can't afford that. And unfortunately, this is the position that Jameson Williams has put himself in. Antoine Green, the opportunity is right there for you, man. I'm going to go ahead and give this, let's go ahead and give this a B+. I'll give this a B+. Excuse my sloppy handwriting. I'm on the fly with it, but I believe it. I believe this is a B+ because this was a position that the Lions didn't need to address early because of the suspension, but it was something they had to address again to make sure they're at their highest power possible when competing for the NFC and going after the division as well, the NFC North. I like what Antoine Green can bring for this offense. I'll go ahead and give him a B+ for the selection. After so much debate online, after so much worry, after so many of y'all thinking I'm a hater, at the end of this draft weekend, two things have been confirmed. The Lions have gotten better, and the Lions passed the class of the draft. I think they did a very good job despite my concerns, which is why I give them a final grade of a B. Brad Holmes gets a B, guys. I think he did a very good job. Even with some of the questions I may have asked on social media or my last video, I still think this Lions team is in shape to win the division and be a serious threat in the NFC. Let's be very clear. even if we have some healthy concerns about the moves that are made about this team, it does not mean we're rooting against the moves just for the sake of being right. I enjoy being right. I like to see my hot takes play out, but I want to see this team win more than anything. I want to get that very clear. I'm happy with what Brad Holmes has done, and I'm happy about the direction of this Detroit Lions franchise. But talk to me in the comment section because I would love to hear your feedback. What is your final team grade that you would give the Detroit Lions for their 2023 draft selections? Give me a grade on all the picks. Tell me what your favorite pick was, your least favorite pick. I would love to hear all of it from you in the comment section. Make sure you talk to me there, like the video as well, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Making our way up to 8,000 subscribers. That's our new goal here on our YouTube page, and we can make that happen with your support. Make sure you tap in on our social media as well: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. Search and follow Detroit Sports Nation and lock in with me as well at I am Eric Vincent. Thank you all so much for your time. I greatly appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed the NFL draft as much as I did. Go Lions. And we're getting that much closer to the start of a very, very exciting NFL regular season for the Detroit Lions. And I'll be right back again soon with another update right here from the DSN News Desk. Peace.